On the outskirts of the quiet village of Eldermoor, where ancient trees whispered secrets to the wind and shadows clung to every corner after sundown, the old well stood like a forgotten sentinel. Its stones, moss-covered and cracked, hid beneath the surface a darkness that no one dared disturb until that bitter winter's eve. Elias Thorne, a retired schoolteacher with more curiosity than caution, was tending his late wife's garden when he noticed it. A foul, rotten stench wafted through the chilled air, trailing from the direction of the well on his neighbor's property. His heart clenched, a mixture of dread and suspicion gnawed at him. By the old gods, what is that smell? Elias muttered, gripping the wooden handle of his spade tighter. He called out toward the neighboring house, "Marla, do you smell that too?" Marla Graves, a sprightly widow in her 60s with a sharp mind and sharper tongue, appeared at her door, wiping her hands on a faded apron. Her eyes narrowed as she sniffed the air. "It's coming from the well. That damned well. I've never known it to smell like this." The two neighbors exchanged uneasy glances, the village's superstitions suddenly feeling all too real. Eldermoor had long whispered of strange happenings tied to that well, ghostly lights flickering in the dead of night, sudden cold drafts that chilled to the bone, and muffled cries that no one could explain. Elias took a step closer to the well's edge, peering into the dark abyss. The night was silent, save for the soft crunch of snow underfoot and the distant hoot of an owl. A shiver crawled down his spine, not from the cold, but from a deep, unexplainable unease. Suddenly, a faint splash echoed upward. Elias staggered back, startled. "Did you hear that, Marla? Something fell, or someone." Marla's face paled. "We should tell the others. This is no ordinary smell or sound." Word spread quickly through Eldermoor, stirring a mixture of fear and morbid fascination. By nightfall, a small crowd had gathered around the well: Thomas Gray, the village constable, Father Alden, the aging priest, and a handful of villagers, clutching lanterns and weapons more out of nervousness than necessity. Thomas, a man who had seen his share of trouble but nothing like this, tried to calm the crowd. "Everyone, please keep your distance. We'll investigate at first light." But sleep would not come to Eldermoor that night. Strange shadows flickered beyond the flickering lanterns, faint whispers slipped through the icy breeze, calling names long forgotten. Marla swore she saw a figure standing just beyond the tree line, tall, with flowing hair that seemed to ripple like water, but when she blinked, it was gone. Meanwhile, in the warmth of his modest cottage, young Daniel Graves, Marla's nephew and a university student home for the holidays, scrolled through news reports on his laptop, oblivious to the growing unease outside. When Marla called him urgently, her voice shaking, he promised to return at dawn. As dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Elias, Thomas, Marla, and a few brave villagers lowered a lanterned rope into the well, expecting to find a trapped animal or, hopefully, nothing at all. What they discovered instead would haunt Eldermoor for years to come. The first thing brought to light was a piece of cloth, stained dark and clinging to the slimy stone wall. Then, a human hand, a pale, lifeless hand emerged, grasping feebly at the rope. Gasps erupted from the onlookers. Thomas quickly ordered a stretcher brought from his home. The villagers worked together, struggling against the weight of the body, pulling it up from the watery grave. The corpse was badly decomposed, ravaged by time and something else no one dared guess. But what chilled the crowd to their core was the sight of the victim's face split open from temple to chin, the left side grotesquely severed. Marla covered her mouth to keep from screaming. Elias's knees buckled. Thomas immediately took control, barking orders to secure the scene and summon the county police. Meanwhile, in a cramped office cluttered with case files, Detective Marcus Hawk received the call that shattered his quiet afternoon. Known for his keen intuition and relentless pursuit of truth, Marcus was not one to be easily rattled. But as the details unfolded, the mutilated body, the eerie location, the local legends, he felt a chill unlike any before. His instincts screamed that this was only the beginning. Back in Eldermoor, whispers grew into rumors. Who was the victim? Why had they been thrown into the well? And more unnerving still, was this act connected to the village's shadowed past? Among the villagers, suspicion brewed. Some blamed the new logging company expanding into the nearby forest, others pointed fingers at old family feuds long buried beneath layers of silence. Marla recalled old tales of the Silent Watcher, a spirit said to guard the well, punishing those who trespassed. Daniel, now returning with heavy heart and sharpened resolve, vowed to help uncover the truth. For the village, for his aunt, and for the restless soul trapped beneath the stones. The chill in the air was no longer just the winter's cold. Something dark had awakened in Eldermoor, and the well had whispered its dreadful secret. The morning after the grisly discovery, Eldermoor was anything but peaceful. The well, once a silent guardian of forgotten stories, had become the epicenter of fear and speculation. News had spread beyond village borders, drawing the attention of journalists and curious onlookers, but within Eldermoor, a far darker truth began to seep through cracks of silence. Detective Marcus Hawk arrived just before noon, his tall frame casting a long shadow against the gray skies. He was accompanied by forensic specialist Dr. Lena Matthews, a sharp-eyed woman with a steely resolve and a reputation for unraveling the most baffling cases. Inside the modest community hall, now converted into a temporary command center, Marcus laid out the preliminary findings. The victim was identified as Samuel Hargrove, Marcus said, flipping through photos of the decomposed body. Local man, age 43, a logger by trade. His disappearance was reported 2 weeks ago. Lena interjected, cause of death appears to be sharp force trauma to the head. The splitting wound was made with precision, almost surgical. This wasn't random violence. The room fell silent, the weight of the statement sinking in. Outside, Daniel Graves walked the village paths, eyes sharp, and mind racing. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. At the edge of the forest, he spotted a flicker of movement, a figure cloaked in shadows, disappearing behind the ancient oaks. His heart pounded. Was this related to the well? The whispers. The silent watcher legend his aunt mentioned. At the Hargrove homestead, Marcus and Lena found a chilling scene. Samuel's home was untouched, but a cryptic message scrawled on a wall read, "The past bleeds through the stones." Searching the house, they uncovered old photographs of the village from decades ago, many marked with red circles around the well and surrounding forest. In one faded photo, a group of villagers posed near the well, their expressions grim, eyes wary. Marcus frowned. "Looks like this well holds more than water. There's history here, something Elder Moor's been trying to bury." Meanwhile, rumors spread of strange occurrences. Livestock found mutilated, strange symbols painted near the well, and a chilling melody, an old folk tune heard echoing through the woods at night. Children claimed to see ghostly figures beckoning them near the well's edge. Marla, racked with worry, confided in Daniel, "This village. It's old magic, old curses. We've disturbed something. I fear the Silent Watcher is not just a story." One night, Daniel stayed up late, determined to confront his fears. He took a lantern and crept toward the well. As he approached, the air grew heavy, thick with an unnatural chill. Suddenly, the ground beneath him trembled and a low, guttural whisper curled around his ears. "Return what was taken." Frozen, Daniel watched as a pale hand emerged from the water's surface, grasping wildly before vanishing beneath the depths. He stumbled back, breath ragged. The village's dark secret was far from over. The day after the eerie message in Samuel Hargrove's home, Detective Marcus Hawk and Dr. Lena Matthews returned to the village with a sense of urgency. The local folklore had taken on a tangible weight, and the residents' fear was no longer mere superstition. Marcus gathered the village elders and key witnesses in the old community hall. Among them was Marla Graves, whose knowledge of Elder Moor's history was unmatched, and Father Alden, the priest who had spent decades battling the village's darker myths. Marla began, her voice trembling but resolute. Long ago, Elder Moor was home to a secret society, guardians of an ancient relic buried deep beneath the well. They called it the Heartstone, a source of power and protection, but cursed if disturbed. Father Alden nodded gravely. "The Silent Watcher is the guardian spirit of the Heartstone. Legend says that those who seek to exploit or harm the village will suffer a terrible fate." Marcus frowned, skeptical but aware that folklore often held kernels of truth. "Are you saying Samuel's death is connected to this relic?" Marla glanced around, lowering her voice. "I believe so. There have been strange disappearances and deaths in the past linked to those who trespassed near the well. This is not the first time Elder Moor has seen blood spilled over the Heartstone." Meanwhile, Daniel, restless and determined, decided to explore the forbidden forest bordering Elder Moor. Guided by whispered warnings and cryptic clues from Marla's tales, he ventured into the ancient woods just as dusk settled. The forest was alive with shadows that stretched and danced unnaturally. Twisted branches seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers. Suddenly, a low chant drifted through the trees, a haunting melody sung in a forgotten tongue. Daniel's blood ran cold. Suddenly, from the mist emerged a cloaked figure with eyes glowing faintly like embers. The figure's voice was a rasping whisper. "You seek the truth. But some truths are better left buried." Daniel's courage faltered, but he demanded, "Who are you? What happened to Samuel?" The figure hesitated, then pointed toward a hidden hollow near the heart of the forest. "The silent watcher punishes, but it also protects. The Heartstone's power cannot be wielded by the unworthy." Before Daniel could ask more, the figure vanished, leaving behind an eerie silence. Back in Eldermoor, Marcus and Lena made a breakthrough. Forensic analysis revealed traces of an ancient mineral found only in the bedrock beneath the well embedded in Samuel's wound, suggesting the murder weapon was no ordinary blade but forged from this rare substance. Lena whispered, "This isn't just a murder. It's a ritual." The village's uneasy peace shattered further when more bodies were found, each bearing marks similar to Samuel's, and each discovered near sites linked to the village's haunted past. As the full moon rose over Eldermoor, the villagers barricaded their homes, fearful that the silent watcher's wrath was awakening. In his cottage, Daniel stared into the flickering fire, knowing that the coming nights would decide not only his fate but the fate of the entire village. The village of Eldermoor sat under a heavy pall, as if the very sky mourned the tragic deaths that had shaken its foundations. Detective Marcus Hawk, now fully immersed in the case, realized that what they were dealing with was far beyond a simple murder. The ancient forces woven into the village's fabric were awakening, stirring old grudges and forgotten magic. The investigation room was cluttered with maps, photographs, and ancient texts that Marcus and Dr. Lena Matthews pored over each day. Lena's forensic expertise combined with Marcus's relentless interrogation methods created a fragile hope of unraveling the mystery. Lena traced her finger over an old map of Eldermoor, pointing to various locations marked with red ink. "Look at these places: ancient burial grounds, old ruins, the well, and the spots where the bodies were found. There's a pattern, Marcus. This isn't random. Someone is following a path. Or forcing others to." Marcus nodded, rubbing the stubble on his chin. "It's as if the killer is performing a ritual, linking these sites for some dark purpose. But why? What's the end game?" Their conversation was interrupted by a call from the village constable, Thomas Gray. "Detective, you need to see this." Thomas's voice was tense. At the edge of the forest, villagers had gathered around a recently discovered shallow grave. This one was different. The remains were of a young woman, her body arranged meticulously, surrounded by strange symbols drawn in blood-red paint. Lena crouched beside the body, examining the symbols. "These markings. They match ancient rites from Eldermoor's darkest times. It's a binding ritual, meant to trap spirits or power." Marcus looked at the crowd. "Who is she?" Thomas sighed. "Her name is Illyra Finch. She moved here just months ago. quiet, kept to herself mostly. Back at the village hall, the atmosphere was thick with fear and suspicion. Rumors spread like wildfire, accusing the newcomers of stirring unrest, of attracting dark forces. Marla Graves fought to calm the growing hysteria, but even she could not deny the chilling reality. Daniel Graves, feeling the weight of the village's gaze, found himself increasingly isolated. The shadowy figure he'd seen in the forest haunted his dreams, whispering warnings he could not understand. One night, Daniel discovered a hidden compartment in Marla's attic. Inside were journals dating back centuries, chronicling the history of the Heartstone and the Silent Watcher. The journals spoke of a curse that would fall on Elder Moor should the Heartstone be disturbed. It told of blood sacrifices and the awakening of a guardian spirit, whose wrath was merciless. Daniel read aloud, voice trembling. The Silent Watcher demands balance. When the scales tip, the guardian rises. Those who trespass without respect shall pay with blood, and the village will drown in shadows until the debt is repaid. As days passed, strange occurrences escalated. Livestock disappeared overnight. Shadows moved against the wind. People heard soft crying beneath the earth. Meanwhile, Marcus and Lena uncovered evidence pointing toward an underground cult, long thought to be a myth. The cult's members, descendants of the original guardians of the Heartstone, sought to protect or exploit the relic's power. In a tense interrogation, a man named Victor Crane was brought in, a local with ties to the logging company and whispers of involvement in the cult. Victor smirked coldly. "You think you understand Elder Moor? You're children playing with fire. The Heartstone is ours. And it will decide who lives. And who dies." That night, the village's power flickered and failed. A heavy fog rolled in, swallowing the streets and cloaking everything in eerie silence. Daniel, unable to sleep, felt compelled to visit the well once more. Lantern in hand, he approached the stone rim, the same place where the first body was found. Suddenly, a chilling wind blew out his lantern. In the blackness, he heard whispered voices, pleading, threatening, and crying. A translucent figure emerged, a woman, ethereal and mournful, her eyes pools of endless sorrow. "Protect the Heartstone, or suffer," she whispered before dissolving into mist. The chilling encounter left Daniel shaken but resolute. He knew that to save Elder Moor, he had to unravel the tangled web of history, betrayal, and magic before the Silent Watcher's vengeance consumed them all. The village of Elder Moor had never felt so claustrophobic. The fog thickened with every passing day, seeping through cracks and filling every corner with an oppressive silence. People locked their doors earlier, eyes darting nervously toward the ancient well that had become the heart of darkness. Detective Marcus Hawk and Dr. Lena Matthews worked tirelessly, their days blending into nights under the weight of a case that twisted and deepened beyond their expectations. Evidence was mounting, yet answers remained elusive. One morning, Daniel Graves awoke to find a small, intricately carved wooden box placed outside his door. There was no note, only the unmistakable scent of pine and something metallic, a faint tingle that crawled along his skin. Inside the box lay a rusted key and a faded photograph of a young woman, her eyes sharp and defiant. Daniel recognized her immediately from the village records. It was Illyra Finch, the woman found in the shallow grave. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the window. Daniel spun around but saw nothing but the whispering trees. Meanwhile, at the village square, Marcus convened a secret meeting with Marla Graves, Father Alden, and Thomas Gray. The urgency in his voice was palpable. "We're dealing with an orchestrated plan," Marcus stated firmly. "Victor Crane's involvement confirms that. This isn't random violence. The cult is active, and they're trying to awaken something ancient and dangerous." Marla added, "The Heartstone's curse isn't just legend. It's a living force. We've already seen the signs, mutilated bodies, the ritualistic markings, and now the rising fear." Father Alden crossed himself. "The balance has been disturbed. If the cult completes their ritual, the Silent Watcher will awaken fully and none of us will be safe." That night, Daniel followed the clues from the box. The rusted key fit perfectly into a hidden door beneath the village chapel, a place long forgotten. The door creaked open, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. Heart pounding, Daniel lit his lantern and began the descent. Deep underground, Daniel discovered a network of tunnels lined with ancient runes glowing faintly in the lantern light. At the center lay a cavernous chamber where a massive stone pedestal held a pulsing crystal, the Heartstone itself. As he stepped closer, whispers filled the air, echoes of the past, voices pleading for justice, and others warning of doom. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind him. "Thought you'd sneak in alone," a voice hissed. Daniel spun to see Victor Crane, flanked by cloaked figures whose eyes gleamed with fanaticism. "You don't understand what you're meddling with," Victor sneered. "Join us, and you might live to see dawn. Resist, and you'll become another sacrifice." Above ground, Marcus and Lena coordinated with the village militia to prepare for a confrontation. The cult's movements were increasing, the tension was suffocating. Marla reached out to Daniel through an old network of allies. She was determined to get him out before it was too late. Back in the cavern, Daniel faced a choice: surrender or fight for Eldermoor's soul. As Victor's followers closed in, the Heartstone pulsed with an eerie light, illuminating Daniel's resolve. With a sudden surge of courage, Daniel grabbed a shard of broken crystal from the floor and hurled it toward the pedestal. The chamber shook violently as the Heartstone cracked, sending a shockwave that threw cultists off balance. Outside, the villagers felt the tremor, fear, and hope mingling in their hearts. Marcus shouted into his radio, "This is it. Move in now." The battle for Eldermoor had begun. The cavern trembled as the Heartstone cracked, its glow flickering like a dying flame. Cultists scrambled in chaos, their chants broken by the sudden eruption of power. Daniel seized the moment, lunging past stunned foes and sprinting toward the twisting tunnels leading back to the surface. Behind him, Victor Crane roared in fury, You think breaking the Heartstone frees you? You've only begun the reckoning. Above ground, Marcus Hawk led the village militia in a fierce skirmish against cult members flooding from hidden entrances around Elder Moor. Lanterns swung wildly as arrows whistled through the mist, and the clash of steel echoed off the ancient trees. Lena coordinated medical aid, tending to wounded villagers while radioing for backup. Back in the tunnels, Daniel's breath came in ragged gasps. The underground labyrinth was alive, walls pulsing with ancient energy, shadows twisting into nightmarish shapes. Suddenly, the whispering voices converged into one chilling command. Sacrifice. To restore balance. Daniel stumbled upon a hidden chamber lined with skeletal remains arranged in ritual patterns. At the center, a journal lay open on a stone altar, the writings of the cult's founder, chronicling dark ceremonies and forbidden pacts. As Daniel read, a cold hand clamped onto his shoulder. He spun around to face Marla Graves, who had followed him silently through a secret passage. "I couldn't let you face this alone," she said grimly. "There's more at stake than you realize." Together, they deciphered the journal's warnings. The Heartstone's power was tied to an ancient entity bound beneath the village, an entity that could either protect or destroy. Meanwhile, Victor Crane rallied the cultists for a final rite atop Elder Moor's highest hill, the site where the Heartstone had first been buried centuries ago. He raised a ceremonial dagger, its blade etched with glowing runes, chanting incantations that summoned a swirling vortex of dark energy. Marcus and his militia fought desperately to reach the hilltop, battling waves of fanatic cultists determined to complete the ritual. Lena's voice crackled over the radio, "We have civilians trapped near the hill's base, requesting immediate extraction." As the ritual reached its climax, a spectral figure emerged, a towering guardian clad in armor of shimmering light and shadow. The silent watcher awakened. It raised its sword high, the air crackling with raw power. In the heart of the storm, Daniel and Marla raced to stop Victor. Their only chance was to reunite the fractured pieces of the Heartstone, each hidden in sacred places across Elder Moor, to seal away the darkness once more. The battle that followed was fierce and desperate. Blades clashed, spells flared, and the fate of Elder Moor hung in the balance. Victor sneered, "You cannot deny destiny." Daniel shouted back, "Our destiny is to protect this village, not destroy it." As the silent watcher swung its mighty blade, the world seemed to hold its breath. The Heartstone's shards pulsed, glowing brighter with each heartbeat. With a final, desperate act, Daniel thrust the pieces together, unleashing a blinding light that engulfed the hilltop. When the light faded, the cult was broken, Victor Crane vanquished, and the silent watcher returned to its slumber. Elder Moor stood battered but alive, forever changed, yet hopeful. The blinding light had faded, but its echoes lingered, casting long shadows over Elder Moor. The battle had ended, Victor Crane lay defeated, and the silent watcher had returned to its eternal slumber. Yet, the village was far from healed. Marcus Hawk stood amidst the scattered remnants of the cult's stronghold atop the hill, his gaze heavy with exhaustion and thought. The villagers celebrated cautiously below, but Marcus knew the scars, both visible and unseen, would last a lifetime. He turned to Lena, who was tending to the wounded. This isn't over. The Heartstone's power, it's woven into Elder Moor's fate. We stopped Victor, but the darkness isn't gone. It's dormant, waiting. Daniel Graves, still shaken from the confrontation, wandered through the village streets. The faces he passed were a mixture of relief, grief, and suspicion. He felt the weight of his newfound role, a reluctant guardian of secrets that stretched far beyond his understanding. At Marla's cottage, Daniel sat with his aunt, poring over more of the ancient journals she had uncovered. One entry caught his eye, a prophecy hinting at a new threat. When the guardian sleeps, the true enemy watches. Shadows within can be darker than those without. Meanwhile, strange occurrences began anew. Livestock fell ill with no explanation. Whispered voices echoed through abandoned houses. And a series of unexplained disappearances plagued the outskirts of Elder Moor. Marcus convened a meeting with the village elders, including Father Alden and Marla. The cult was just one piece of the puzzle, Marcus explained. There are forces here, forces we haven't yet seen. We need to prepare. In the shadows of the forest, a new figure observed the village, a woman cloaked in midnight robes, her eyes gleaming with an unnatural light. She spoke softly to herself. The game has changed. The heart may be broken, but the bloodline remains. Back in the village, Daniel received a mysterious visitor, a young woman named Selene, claiming to be a scholar of ancient magic and lore. She warned Daniel of a faction within Elder Moor itself, those who wished to harness the Heartstone's power for their own dark purposes. Selene's arrival brought hope but also suspicion. Was she ally or adversary? Daniel wasn't sure. As tension simmered, Marcus uncovered a disturbing truth: some villagers had been secretly aiding the cult, seduced by promises of power and vengeance. The web of deception ran deep. The village was fractured, trust shattered. At night, Daniel dreamt of the silent watcher not as a protector, but as a prisoner struggling to break free. The line between guardian and prisoner blurred. Determined, Daniel, Marla, and Selene formed a fragile alliance, vowing to uncover the true threat before it consumed Elder Moor. The chapter closed on a chilling note: a hidden chamber beneath the village hall revealed by ancient runes, glowing faintly, a gateway, perhaps, to darker realms beyond. The shadows were gathering, and the real battle was only beginning. The village of Elder Moor was no longer the serene settlement it once was. The battle atop the hill had left wounds deeper than any blade could inflict. The villagers, once united in fear and hope, now found themselves divided, caught between loyalty, suspicion, and the creeping shadow of a hidden enemy. Detective Marcus Hawk sat behind his cluttered desk in the makeshift command center, his face etched with fatigue. The files before him told a grim story: betrayals, half-truths, and the slow unraveling of the village's fragile peace. He tapped a photo of Victor Crane's closest associates, a web of faces and names. "We've only scratched the surface," Marcus muttered. "The cult's roots run deeper than we imagined, into the very heart of Elder Moor." Meanwhile, Selene and Daniel pored over the ancient journals Marla had found, deciphering cryptic passages about the Heartstone's true nature. Selene explained, her voice low and urgent, the Heartstone is a conduit, a bridge between worlds. It channels not just power, but souls. When fractured, it disrupts the balance, allowing dark forces to seep through. Daniel frowned, so breaking it, it saved us, but at what cost? Selene nodded gravely. The Guardian's slumber has been disturbed. The barrier is thin, and not all entities are as benign as the Silent Watcher. The village council convened an emergency meeting. Elders, constables, and key villagers gathered in the old chapel, the stained glass casting fractured light upon anxious faces. Marla stood to speak, her voice steady despite the weight she carried. We face an enemy within. There are those who seek to wield the Heartstone's fractured power for personal gain, to manipulate the village, to reshape it in darkness. Father Alden's hands trembled as he gripped his cross. The cult was but a symptom. The disease spreads through whispers and greed. That night, a series of unsettling events unfolded. At the village market, goods were sabotaged. Livestock were found dead in grotesque poses. Strange symbols, more intricate and sinister than before, were painted on doors and walls. Daniel and Selene discovered a hidden passage beneath the village library, leading to a forgotten crypt. Inside, walls bore inscriptions warning of a prophecy of a blood moon rising that would bring either salvation or ruin. In the shadows, an internal power struggle began within the village. Some sided with Marcus and the defenders, eager to rebuild and protect Elder Moor's legacy. Others, swayed by promises of power or blinded by fear, gravitated toward a mysterious faction led by a charismatic but enigmatic figure named Rowan. Rowan's followers believed that only by fully harnessing the Heartstone's corrupted power could Elder Moor be saved, even if it meant sacrificing morality. Marcus received intelligence that Rowan was gathering artifacts from the surrounding forest, relics once thought lost, imbued with potent magic. Desperate to prevent another catastrophe, Marcus, Daniel, and Selene formed a cover team to infiltrate Rowan's faction and uncover their true intentions. During a tense encounter deep in the forest, Daniel confronted Rowan. "You're playing with forces you don't understand," Daniel warned. Rowan smiled coldly. "Understanding is a luxury. Power is what decides the future. Elder Moor belongs to those who seize it." Their confrontation ended with Daniel narrowly escaping an ambush, but he obtained a mysterious amulet, an ancient talisman tied to the Heartstone's origin. Back in Elder Moor, Selene studied the amulet, revealing it to be a key to the Heartstone's true power. Only by restoring the Heartstone fully, not just patching it, can we hope to close the veil, she explained. Marcus weighed the risk. But Rowan won't let that happen. This village is a powder keg, and we're running out of time. As the blood moon approached, Elder Moor stood at a crossroads, torn between factions, haunted by past sins, and shadowed by an ancient power awakening once more. The silent whispers in the wind grew louder, carrying a warning. Balance must be restored, or all shall fall into darkness. The night of the blood moon arrived with an ominous stillness. Elder Moor lay cloaked in deep crimson light, as if the heavens themselves were bleeding. The villagers gathered in hushed groups, some whispering prayers, others clutching talismans of protection. The air was thick with anticipation and dread. Detective Marcus Hawk stood at the edge of the ancient forest, the place where Rowan's faction had set their ritual ground. Beside him, Daniel Graves and Selene prepared for what could be the decisive confrontation that would determine the fate of Elder Moor. For weeks, Rowan had been amassing power, gathering ancient relics and followers willing to risk everything. His vision was clear: to awaken the full might of the Heartstone and remake the village in his own image, regardless of the destruction it would bring. "We have to stop them before the ritual begins," Marcus said grimly, checking his gear. "If Rowan succeeds, there won't be a village left to save." Selene's eyes flickered with a mix of fear and determination. "The veil between worlds is thinnest tonight. If the ritual completes, it will tear open a gateway letting forces in Elder Moor can't even imagine." As they approached the ritual site, a clearing encircled by towering ancient stones, they witnessed a haunting sight. Hooded cultists chanted in unison around the fragmented Heartstone shards, which hovered above an altar carved with eldritch symbols glowing with eerie light. Rowan stood at the center, his hands raised high, eyes blazing with unnatural fire. The ground trembled, and shadows twisted into monstrous shapes around the perimeter. Daniel's breath caught as memories flashed before him: the journals, the warnings, the sacrifices. He clutched the ancient amulet tighter. It pulsed in rhythm with the Heartstone's glow. Suddenly, Rowan's voice cut through the chants. "Tonight, the old bonds break. From the ashes, a new power shall rise." Marcus barked the command, "Now. Move in." The battle erupted with ferocity. Arrows flew, steel clanged, and bursts of magical energy lit the night sky. Rowan's followers fought with fanatical fervor, while Marcus's militia pressed forward, desperate to disrupt the ritual. Amidst the chaos, Selene chanted counter spells, weaving ancient incantations to stabilize the Heartstone shards and prevent the gateway from opening. Daniel fought his way toward Rowan, determined to confront him and end the nightmare. Rowan turned, a sinister smile spreading across his face. "You're brave, Daniel, but bravery alone won't save you." The two clashed, Rowan's dark magic against Daniel's will and the power of the amulet. With a surge of energy, Daniel shattered the amulet's glowing core, sending a shockwave through the clearing. The Heartstone shards fractured violently, and the eldritch symbols dimmed. The Silent Watcher appeared, then a towering figure wreathed in light and shadow, its presence both terrifying and majestic. It raised its massive sword, cutting through the shadows and silencing Rowan's magic. With a final roar, Rowan was cast down, his followers scattering into the darkness. As dawn broke, Elder Moor was silent but alive. Marcus gathered the survivors. "The ritual is broken, but the scars remain. We must rebuild together." Daniel looked toward the horizon, knowing that the fight was far from over. In the days that followed, trust began to heal, but the village remained wary. Hidden threats lurked in the shadows, and the Heartstone's power fractured though it was still pulsed beneath Elder Moor's soil. Marla, Father Alden, Selene, Marcus, and Daniel formed a council to guard the village and the ancient relic, vowing to protect Elder Moor from any future darkness. But beneath the surface, a new whisper stirred a warning that the balance was fragile and that the true enemy was yet to reveal itself. The first light of dawn spilled over Elder Moor, casting long shadows across the village still weary from the night's battle. Though Rowan's threat had been quelled, the wounds left behind were more than skin-deep. Suspicion and fear had taken root in the hearts of many. Detective Marcus Hawk convened an urgent meeting in the community hall, now transformed into a place of both refuge and investigation. Around the rough-hewn table sat the village's key figures: Marla Graves, Daniel Graves, Father Alden, Selene, Thomas Gray, and several others who had stood firm in the fight against darkness. Marcus's voice was grave. The cult's defeat was necessary, but the roots of their influence remain. We've uncovered signs of infiltration, people in positions of trust who may have aided Rowan's cause. Marla nodded solemnly. Power corrupts quietly. Some have been swayed by greed, others by fear. It's tearing us apart from within. Meanwhile, Daniel found himself increasingly isolated. The villagers' eyes flicked toward him with a mix of hope and doubt. Suspicion whispered behind closed doors. He wrestled with the burden of leadership thrust upon him, a weight made heavier by the shadows of the past. One evening, as Daniel walked through the fog-shrouded forest, he encountered an elderly woman named Elysia, known as the village's keeper of memories and lore. Her eyes shone with an ancient wisdom. "You carry more than just the amulet, boy," Elysia said softly. "The Heartstone's power chooses its guardians, but it tests their hearts. Beware those who smile but conceal daggers." Back in Elder Moor, Selene unearthed disturbing revelations. Ancient records indicated that the Heartstone had been fractured once before, centuries ago, leading to a dark age where the village was consumed by betrayal and bloodshed. She shared her findings with Marcus and Marla. "The cycle is repeating. Unless we break it, Elder Moor will fall again." Tensions escalated as accusations flew. Thomas Gray, once a steadfast constable, found himself under scrutiny when evidence suggested he had been reluctant to pursue certain leads. Confrontations erupted in the village square, old friendships fractured, and trust crumbled. Father Alden struggled to maintain peace, preaching unity but feeling the weight of impending despair. Daniel, determined to unite the village, organized a gathering beneath the ancient oaks, the heart of Elder Moor's spirit. He spoke earnestly, "We cannot let fear divide us. The darkness thrives on our fractures. Only together can we protect what we love." The crowd murmured, some moved, others skeptical. That night, a new terror descended. Villagers awoke to screams piercing the fog. Shadows moved with unnatural speed through the streets. Homes were ransacked, and the unsettling symbol of the Heartstone's shattered shards was painted in fresh blood on the chapel's doors. Marcus and the militia sprang into action, but the attackers vanished like phantoms, leaving behind whispers of an unseen enemy. Selene theorized a darker faction, one manipulating from the shadows, exploiting the village's distrust to weaken it further. As Daniel and Marla delved deeper, they uncovered secret meetings, coded messages, and a betrayal closer than they dared imagine. The chilling note found at the well's edge sent ripples of unease throughout Elder Moor. The ancient script hinted at a malevolent presence far older and more insidious than any cult or mortal foe, a darkness that thrived beneath the village, biding its time. Detective Marcus Hawk gathered Daniel, Selene, Marla, and Father Alden for a clandestine meeting deep within the village's abandoned crypt. The flickering torchlight cast eerie shadows on the weathered stone walls as Selene carefully translated the note. The message warns of the Hollow One, an ancient entity sealed beneath Elder Moor centuries ago, she explained. It feeds on fear and discord, growing stronger when the village is divided. Marla's face tightened. So, everything we've been facing, the cult, the betrayals, the disappearances, it's all part of its awakening. Marcus nodded grimly. Our fight isn't just with Rowan or his followers anymore. We're up against something beyond our understanding. Meanwhile, Daniel wrestled with his role as a reluctant leader. The villagers looked to him for guidance, but the shadows of doubt haunted his every step. His conversations with Selene deepened his knowledge of the village's dark history, yet also revealed dangers lurking within his own bloodline. Selene confided, "Your family has long been tied to the Heartstone's fate. You may hold the key to either sealing the Hollow One forever or unleashing its wrath." As tensions escalated, a series of strange events unfolded. Villagers reported seeing ghostly apparitions near the well, hearing whispers in forgotten tongues, and feeling inexplicable coldness even in the warmest rooms. Father Alden struggled to provide spiritual solace, his faith tested like never before. In a desperate attempt to learn more, Marcus and Daniel ventured into the ancient tunnels beneath Elder Moor. Guided by Selene's knowledge, they navigated treacherous passageways adorned with cryptic carvings and long-forgotten symbols. At the heart of the labyrinth, they discovered an ancient seal fractured and weakening. Suddenly, a malevolent force surged forth. Shadows coalesced into a towering figure cloaked in darkness, the Hollow One itself. Its voice was a guttural echo, dripping with malice. "You meddle in forces beyond your reckoning. The village will fall, and I shall rise." Marcus drew his weapon, but it passed harmlessly through the apparition. Daniel, clutching the amulet, stepped forward, feeling its power pulse in response. A fierce mental battle ensued as Daniel fought to strengthen the seal with the amulet's energy, while the Hollow One unleashed torrents of fear and despair. With Selene's voice chanting ancient incantations behind them, the seal began to glow, pushing back the darkness. Emerging from the depths, Marcus and Daniel were greeted by a village transformed. The air was thick with tension, the villagers divided but rallying under a fragile hope. Marla addressed the crowd, "We face a choice, succumb to fear or unite to protect our home. Elder Moor's fate rests in our hands." As the chapter closed, Daniel realized the fight was far from over. The Hollow One's presence lingered like a shadow, waiting for cracks in their unity to exploit. But with newfound resolve and allies by his side, Daniel prepared for the battles ahead, both external and within. The village of Eldermoor stood at the precipice of oblivion. The battle with the Hollow One had revealed the deepest fears and darkest secrets, but it had also forged a fragile unity among the villagers, an ember of hope flickering amidst the shadows. Detective Marcus Hawk, now battle-worn but resolute, gathered the core group: Daniel Graves, Selene, Marla Graves, Father Alden, and Thomas Gray in the heart of the ancient crypt. The shattered seal had been reinforced, but the Hollow One's whispers still haunted the air. Selene spoke softly, "The Hollow One's power is bound to the Heartstone, but the relic is more than a prison, it's a source of balance. To truly end this, the Heartstone must be whole again, and its power willingly accepted." Daniel's eyes met Marla's, both understanding the burden laid upon him. "It's my family's legacy. I have to finish what began generations ago." The plan was perilous: to venture into the deepest chamber beneath Eldermoor, confront the Hollow One directly, and reunite the shattered Heartstone pieces, binding its power through Daniel's lineage. As the villagers prepared, the night sky darkened unnaturally. A storm brewed, lightning crackling like the crack of ancient whips, thunder echoing the heartbeat of the earth. Daniel, clad in a talisman-lined cloak gifted by Selene, led the group into the labyrinth. The air grew thick with power, every step resonating with unseen energy. In the vast chamber, the Hollow One awaited, its form shifting between shadow and flame, eyes like burning coals. "You come to bind me again," it hissed. "I am eternal." Daniel stepped forward, heart pounding, clutching the complete Heartstone now glowing brightly. He spoke firmly, "You are a part of this world, but you do not own it. We accept your existence but not your tyranny." A battle unlike any before unfolded, a clash of wills, light against shadow, past against present. Daniel called forth the power of his ancestors, channeled through the Heartstone, weaving ancient words of binding. Selene and Marla joined in, their voices merging in a powerful incantation. The Hollow One lashed out, tendrils of darkness whipping through the chamber. Marcus shielded the group, while Father Alden invoked blessings, his prayers a beacon in the storm. Slowly, the shadows recoiled as the Heartstone pulsed with a radiant light, enveloping the Hollow One. Its form dissolved into a cascade of shimmering particles, merging with the light and sealing away its malevolence once and for all. As the chamber's energy settled, a profound silence fell. Daniel collapsed to his knees, exhausted but victorious. Outside, the storm broke, revealing a sky dotted with stars shining clearer than ever before. In the days that followed, Eldermoor began to heal. Trust mended, wounds closed, and life returned with a newfound appreciation for the balance between light and shadow. Daniel took his place as guardian not of power, but of the village's spirit and history. Marla restored the ancient journals, preserving the lessons of the past. Selene remained as a protector and scholar, ensuring the knowledge and magic were used wisely. Marcus vowed to safeguard the village from threats both earthly and supernatural. The Heartstone was placed in a sanctified shrine, protected by wards and the watchful eyes of Eldermoor's people, a symbol of unity and vigilance. Yet, as Daniel gazed into the night, he understood that balance was a delicate dance. Darkness might return, in new forms and faces, but the light of Elder Moor fueled by courage, unity, and love would always stand ready. The tale of Elder Moor became legend, a story passed through generations, a reminder that even in the deepest darkness, the light could prevail. Title: Elder Moor, The Curse of the Heartstone, a tale of shadows and redemption. Description: Dive into the chilling story of Elder Moor, a village haunted by an ancient curse and a mysterious relic known as the Heartstone. When brutal murders and dark rituals threaten to tear the community apart, Detective Marcus Hawk, Daniel Graves, and a group of unlikely heroes must unravel centuries-old secrets to confront an ancient evil, the Hollow One, lurking beneath the village. In a gripping tale of betrayal, magic, and sacrifice, they face a battle between light and shadow that will decide Elder Moor's fate forever. Will unity and courage prevail against the darkness, or will the village fall into eternal despair? Experience a haunting journey filled with suspense, supernatural intrigue, and powerful human emotions. Perfect for fans of dark fantasy and mystery alike.